next one we have is the Trust Walk. This is a team building activity. We're going to start with our 3 E's. You got it. All right, our first E is equipment. So what equipment do we need for this activity? We need bandanas, so that way we're able to cover the eyes to go sightless for this activity. If you have a certain route that you want to mark with cones, perhaps, if that's something you want to do, generally I don't recommend that, but if for a specific area that you need to share space with facilitators, that maybe you need that, but ultimately, this is really all you need, okay? The next part we have is the element. Well, this is not a spider web or a TP shove or Mohawk walk. We're gonna be navigating across nature here. So there's not necessarily an element to check out. If you're gonna use some platforms or maybe step on some logs or something like that, then you absolutely need to check those elements prior to. And then the last one is the environment. Of course, we're always gonna think weather. We're gonna look at the route that we've taken. If there's gonna be a lot of pausing, we're gonna make sure whatever route we're taking, there's no fire ants, wasp nests, wiggly sticks, aka snakes that are just hanging out there in that area. So you just want to make sure you check out the environment prior to beginning the Trust Walk. Let's move next to the point of the activity. The Trust Walk is a really unique activity because there's multiple layers. You'll have some participants that will be sightless as they put the bandanas over their eyes. You'll have some participants that are speaking, but they're not able to adjust and move or touch the other participants. You'll have some participants that are adjusting and touching, but they're not able to speak, but they can see as well. So it's really gonna impact everyone's senses and everyone's ability to communicate in different ways. So the point of the activity is you're getting people together. Some people will be sightless, some people will have different roles. As a facilitator, you really wanna identify each person's roles, and they're gonna go from a point A to point B. Seems to be a consistent theme here at the challenge course, but they're getting from one area to the next. Now here's some safety concerns for this activity. One, with the physical safety, we want to make sure that we've already checked our space, but when people are blindfolded, when people have their bandanas over their eyes, we want to make sure that once that happens, that the game is ready to begin. The activity, this initiative, this team building exercise is starting. Once that's on, you're putting people at risk because you're taking their sight away. So don't have participants, okay, here's your bandana, put it over your eyes, and now let me explain everything. That should be the last thing that we do. So some safety things, once their sight is taken away, make sure that they're connected and that you have clearly defined the activity, that you've allowed people to ask their questions, and everyone knows what they're supposed to do. But we talked about physical, but also emotional safety. Notice you've heard me say, and I corrected myself just a moment ago, but you want to say bandanas, not blindfolds. You want to say go sightless, putting over your eyes, because blindfolded could really have some negative connotations, right? So we want to be sure that we're just saying, hey, if you feel comfortable putting this over your eyes, that's great. If someone doesn't feel comfortable doing that, just say, hey, hold on to your bandana, close your eyes. We trust that you're going to follow this exercise appropriately, and you'll follow the rules and expectations, okay? So those are some things to think about. But what we're going to do now is we're going to take a little route to go through and to show you kind of as a facilitator, I would lead the way before we talk about the challenge. Last thing I want to mention was safety. As a facilitator, you want to give the whole group a key word. So if I say pause, that means everyone pauses. And you can practice that before the blindfolds are on. So as you're explaining, you can give them opportunities to ask questions, and you just yell, pause! And everyone's got to pause, just to make sure they understand, because that means I, as a facilitator, see something that people should identify, and the people that are leading the group should see, and I will say pause if I think there's a safety concern, but that makes sure everyone freezes. That's a really great safety keyword to use whenever we're doing this activity. But let's get into the challenge, shall we? Once I've got the group, everyone has their bandanas. I've explained the activity as, all right, we are going to be as a group. There's 12 of us here, and we are going to navigate through the challenge course with our sight being taken away for some of us. There will be 2 participants that will be leading the group, but in very creative ways. One participant will be speaking, but they cannot touch the participants. And when I say touch participants, you can adjust them on the shoulder, from their knees down. You can kind of help them move with their ankle and foot. You want to make sure that before you grab someone's leg, you say, hey, Bob, is it okay if I move your foot? Or is it okay if so-and-so moves your foot? Give them a head nod, right? Our nonverbal cues. But once they're navigating through, we're going to have everyone together. We got our bandanas, And then we're gonna follow me as the facilitator. So as you're following me, the person that's speaking, they need to be very descriptive. Hey, we're walking this way, and it's a slight grade down, and we've got a log here in front of us. And the person that's really helpful to move their foot and make sure they're going where they need. So those people are gonna be working together. So that's really the challenge that's gonna be ahead. There may be times the facilitator will go, pause. All right, I'm gonna tap 2 people on the shoulder. You're gonna take your bandanas off and you're gonna swap. And now you're the person that speaks and you're the person that adjusts people as we go place to place. And so ultimately, as that's going on, these folks are having to navigate with their friends and make sure everyone stays connected. The group that's got bandanas on must stay connected, and they're getting from point A to point B. Okay, so I've explained everything, and now once everyone's together, I'm gonna take them through the route, okay? I'm not gonna tell them where we're going before they put on their bandanas, but now that everyone's connected, I've got my 2 participants that are one speaking and one is talking, and I'm gonna say, follow me. So we're going this way.
You can be creative in your walking. You can do S shapes.
But notice, if you get to a platform, as a facilitator, I'm showing that one person that can talk and the one person that can adjust. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna look. I'm gonna make sure they understand I want all the participants to step up. But I'm gonna be right here making sure that those 2 people know. And this is an example where I would say pause. If the person that's speaking is like this, and they're being very quiet, I might say, pause. Remember, if you're speaking, you need to describe what's going on ahead, okay? All right, unpause. And then I'm looking for people to make sure, and I'm not just watching like this going, I hope they don't trip. I'm right here, and I'm modeling for that next person to make sure that they are stepping and they're demonstrating that there's something ahead, okay? So as a facilitator, you really want to be hands-on in that way. But this is a route that you can take, because remember, everyone is linked together and they've got their sight taken away. So they go here, they can turn, they can step down. Remember, those 2 people really need to be doing their job. We can come over this way. And maybe at this point, you've already rotated different people if you want to, right? Now I've got 3 new people that I've already rotated through, so you can always pause if you would like to do that. You can keep coming. Notice the slant, so you want to make sure people are connected. Have that person describing. There's a slight little washout, so it can be uncomfortable. But this is an area where I have seen people make mistakes, where if they would like for them to sit and rotate around, and then they'll be done, because that's the part where they might disconnect. It's be the conclusion of the walk. Something you want to be really mindful of is some people will see that and they'll want to stand and step, and then they'll hit their head, okay? Also, before this activity begins, I've got to check the environment, and I've got to check this element to make sure that it's stable. I'm looking underneath, especially wood things like this in the summer and the spring. Wasp nests really love that. And I'm going to check this area as well, because once they're done, even all these benches, I want to make sure there's no wasp nests if they're sitting down. There's nothing worse than sitting down and get stung in the calf by a wasp, okay? So those are some things that you'd be mindful of whenever we're doing it. Now, the processing piece is the fun part, because you're not just processing to one, and not everyone had the same experience, which is never the case, but everyone had different roles. Maybe someone was a speaker. Maybe someone was someone that was adjusting and making sure that they could touch the participants. Maybe someone had their bandana on the whole time. So you've got to be really creative and prepared for questions to be able to debrief everyone's roles and what they did when playing into the walk.